Now, if you follow my channel, you caught my review, hopefully, of the OneXPlayer One Netbook 5 with that leather cover on it, a really nice mini laptop, very premium, with a premium price tag, I should say, but one of my favorite ultra portables here for 2024. I love its pull-forward design. This is a pretty unique and a very nice product. I'm very, very happy with it. I keep grabbing it. I mean, this thing is so luxurious. I mean, it just has that beautiful calf leather on here. So, you know, if you're one of those vegan leather people, no, this is real leather. Smells good. All right, let's put that to the side. But I have something else from OneXPlayer, and this is their mini PC. It's the M1, and this looks like an external GPU, because you would be correct if you thought it was, because they do offer one that looks just like this. In fact, they seem to pair it quite a bit. They didn't send me one, but this is their mini PC. This is running the Meteor Lake, the Core Ultra 9 185H, and this is pretty interesting because this has a magnetic cover on the bottom here that allows you to swap out the M.2 2280 SSD. So there's a spot there for that. Pretty nice to get inside and do that. As you throw this in your bag, you bring one of those external monitors with you, or maybe even VR glasses, and you have an external solution without having to bring a laptop. And this is just throw this in the bag, that's it. And it's got full power here, so you can run all your applications, you can play your games and so forth, and not have to worry about bringing a full-fledged laptop. Now, the downside is, of course, you do have to bring an external display, or this is another great option. You can bring this from your office back to home and have the same functionality, not have to worry about bringing the laptop. So you already have your setup with your mouse, keyboard, monitor at your office. You unplug it, undock it, and then you bring it back to your home, into your home office, and you got all the I/O, dock it here. You have your mouse, keyboard, and multiple monitors. Whatever you may do in terms of your setup, this thing will certainly fit the bill. So let's get into it. Why I think this is one of the really most interesting mini PCs you're going to see here in 2024. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is the OneXPlayer M1 mini PC, all new for 2024. Coming up. Now, before we get to the unit itself, I just want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by OneXPlayer. I'm not being sponsored by OneXPlayer. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. OneXPlayer is not getting copy approval. They're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. This unit is on loan from OneXPlayer, and once this review is done, I'll be sending it back. Now, pricing's pretty interesting here. Starting price $699 to get you 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of SSD storage. By the way, they all come with the Core Ultra 9 185H. Second tier, which is the $799, that's 32 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage. And finally, $899 gets you the 32 gigabytes of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage. And they offer a bundle with the external GPU for $1349. That, of course, is the 16 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of storage with the 1X GPU. So you can have the combination for that extra graphics horsepower. For those that are interested, I'll leave links for everything in the description below. You know the drill, folks. Let's get this out of the box. Now, I will say this. I already opened it up, but just to show you the packaging here, it's actually pretty nice. You can see it here. Pretty nicely done here by OneXPlayer. This is the OneXPlayer M1, and it's a mini PC that's pretty interesting, especially if you're going to use it with one of their external GPUs. Now, I do have an external GPU, but it's not from them. They didn't send me the one that looks exactly like this, actually. So this is the OneXPlayer M1, and as you can see, plenty of I/O here. Core Ultra 9 185H, so it's a pretty interesting processor for this. It's going to be pretty powerful. It's got the Intel Arc graphics, but I think you're going to want to get an external GPU for this that they do offer, and I'll put a link in the description below. Now, you also get some documentation here, OneXPlayer instructions, and then you get the charger here. Now, here's the charger, and you got a USB-C cable here. I wish it was a little bit longer. It's not the longest cable here. And this charger is, I believe, a 100-watt GAN charger. So it's a flip-out prong GAN charger, which I like to see. And it's takes up about a quarter of the size of the unit, but pretty good to supply the juice. Now, the bottom cover comes off. It stays magnetically, so that you can see some of the magnets on there. So you could change out the SSD. So we'll talk about that. But, of course, that's pretty handy to get there. M.2 2280 full-size SSD, so that's good. And then, of course, when you're finished with that, you just stick it back on here, and it sticks right back on magnetically. So very easy to maintenance service this, so that's pretty good. Now, one of the ways I'm gonna use something like this is I can travel with this, and when I pair it with a pair of AR glasses, or if I pair it with one of my external monitors, like I have that travel monitor that I go with that I just recently reviewed, the Intahill or one of them. Anyway, the bottom line is this is going to be great if you want to pair it with an external display. So you don't necessarily have to take a laptop. You may just throw this in your bag. Okay, let's check out the port selection. And on the front, you get your power button, which doubles as a fingerprint scanner. That worked reasonably well. And next to that is your turbo button. That's going to take you from 45 watts up to 60 watts in terms of power. So that's going to give you a performance boost, and that has been pretty good. And then next to that is the button that controls the RGB lighting on the unit. Now, next to that is a little latch that you remove via the screw, and that reveals your Oculink port. That's going to allow you to connect to an external GPU, like the one they do sell, of course. And that is, of course, great. And then you have next to that an HDMI port. They have two HDMI. There's one on the front, and we'll show you on the back in a moment. And speaking of the back here, you get your two USB Type-C 4.0 ports. Now, one of them is going to be used for charging. You can use either one, and then the other one, you can also connect to an external GPU. I've tested it with my unit. I do have a pre-production GPU, and that worked pretty well. And then a HDMI is next to that. That's your second one. You get a display port next to that, so plenty of ways to connect to monitors on this. Two USB Type-A ports. You get your micro SD card reader, which is always welcome. Gigabit Ethernet. I don't know the exact speeds on it. They don't say, but there it is. And then, of course, your audio jack to round out the ports on this unit. And I would say, all in all, a very good port selection for a mini PC. Now, to get inside this unit, to swap out your SSD, there's a little latch there. It connects magnetically. You don't need any tools, so that's been pretty good. And it uses the M.2 2280. Now, my review unit has 1 terabyte, and it looks like they divided it up into 2 drives, a C and a D drive, and they're decent reads and writes, although you can add in even faster storage on your own. That's a good option to go with, but of course, certainly fast enough for what you need this mini PC to do. So that's been pretty good. All right, let's talk performance, and you're looking at the Core Ultra 9 185H, the Meteor Lake processor that I've looked at a number of times on the channel, especially when we looked at a lot of the laptops running it, and it's very capable. Good single-core, good multi-core performance here. It's very good for Microsoft Office, email, web browsing, no hiccups, no slowdowns, everything very fast, very snappy, very good. Now, in Cinebench 2024, I was able to connect my external GPU, and that's why you're actually seeing a GPU score here, 3749. That's that AMD Radeon 6600M that is in my external GPU that I looked at. I'll leave a link to that video for those that didn't see it. So that's why I was able to get that score. Now, multi-core, obviously 875 is very good, and the CPU score was 112, also very good. So you're not going to have any problems in terms of performance on this for doing your everyday tasks. Now, as far as the graphics here, we're looking at the Intel Arc graphics. The Meteor Lake Intel Arc graphics were very good when they came out a couple of years ago, and they're good here. So as you can see, the 38, 39 Time Spy scores on the higher end, that's really good, actually. And I think it's helped a little bit by that performance boost that we get from the turbo button, which brings it from 45 watt TDP to the 60 watts. So that maybe helps in that regard in some ways. And then, of course, the Firestrike score, also very good here, a little bit above average. And then, of course, you get Wildlife Extreme. It got 5524, not bad at all. So really good in terms of the integrated solution. So you'll be able to play some games. You're just going to have to play with the settings. You can play the older titles. You'll get some pretty nice performance. But the newer titles, you may have to lower some of the settings. And then, of course, the Oculink port allows you to connect to the external GPU. The one that they sell is very capable. And, of course, I used others here. So it just depends on which one you use. But you will get some very capable gaming if you connect to an external GPU, which is where I think this is meant to be in terms of a companion device, or with that one that they do offer. So I think that combination was really good. I wish that OneXPlayer would have sent me one to test out, but I didn't have it. I was able to use mine, and I got some pretty nice performance out of it. Pretty good overall. Now, you can also game with this, and pretty capable with the Intel Arc graphics, a really good integrated solution that we saw with Meteor Lake, and this is certainly getting a nice boost a little bit also from the 60 watts of power that is being fed by OneXPlayer in their settings. So pretty good when you press the turbo button. You're going to get a little bit extra horsepower here. But as far as Intel Arc graphics, they do have their limitations, of course. I would add an external GPU, and of course it does have USB 4 ports, 2 of them, and it also has an Oculink port. So if you want to add an external GPU, say the one that they offer, you can do it. Now, I was able to connect it to my external GPU, that is my pre-production unit that I showed, and that one, of course, got about double the power. Of course, it's the AMD Radeon RX 6600M. So not the most powerful GPU, but it certainly will double pretty much the performance I'm seeing here. So that's been pretty good. Overall, I thought the gaming on this was actually really capable. So I was very impressed with it. And good news, when I ran the Time Spy stress test to see if this will thermal throttle under heavy load, it got a passing score of 97.4%, meaning it detected virtually no thermal throttling under load, and that's a good thing. Now, when it comes to fan noise, if you're going to be pushing this under heavy load, say you're gaming or doing some high-end stuff, it's going to reach around 50, 51 decibels, which is noticeable, but the whirl on it was not annoying at all. In fact, it was a low whirl, so it didn't really come into play in terms of a distraction. Now, as far as the surface temperatures under load, you can see it never gets overly hot, so the cooling solution employed here by OneXPlayer certainly does the job, and when you touch it, it really doesn't get very warm or anything like that, so I think they did a pretty good job, especially in such a compact form factor with a chassis here that's not that big. So pretty good in that regard. All right, let's bring it all home. What do I think about the OneXPlayer M1 mini PC here for 2024? I like the small form factor. It's pretty compact, takes up little space on your desk, and it's easy to take with you to travel with, so you don't have to take a laptop necessarily. If you have a monitor, keyboard, mouse where you're going, this is a great option to go with in lieu of a laptop, so that's great. Now, as far as the performance, the Core Ultra 9 185H Meteor Lake certainly is capable. We've seen it many times on the channel as far as getting work done. This is going to be a good solution. The integrated ARC graphics are tried and true. We've seen it many times here. Of course, you'll have to play with some of the settings, but you can do some gaming on this as well. So, of course, it just depends on which title and which settings you choose. I like the fact that you get the Oculink port. That's going to be 63 gigabits per second. That's going to allow you to connect to an external GPU, like the one they're trying to pair this with in terms of selling it to you in a bundle. Now, I kind of wish they sent me that Oculink-based unit, of course, as far as the eGPU. I didn't get it. Of course, that would have been great to pair the two. They look identical, so they're going to look really great on your desk. They're going to take up little amount of space in terms of the footprint, so that would have been great. Now, I was able to connect to an external GPU that I have here in the studio via the USB 4.0 port. I had no issues, and that worked well. So remember, one of the ports will be used for charging as far as that USB-C, so the other one can be used for an external GPU, but the Oculink will give you that better throughput, of course. Now, as far as the negatives here, it can get a little expensive here, and especially with the fact that they're using a Meteor Lake processor right now, I can't help but think it's a little high in terms of the price, but I think they meant this to be paired with the external GPU that they offer as a bundle, so you may want to go with that, save a few dollars, although I still think it's a little bit expensive, but hopefully OneXPlayer will run some sales, and always check the link in the description below for the latest pricing. My feeling is they're going to try to reduce the price, maybe get these moved out the door. And again, I think they meant to pair this with that external GPU, so you might want to consider that bundle. But overall, I think the really good OneXPlayer M1 mini PC here is a good option here, especially the aesthetics, the compact form factor, the versatility that the Oculink gives you, and I think the overall package is really good, but I just wish it was a little bit less expensive.